Good morning, YouTube. Welcome back to the Adventurer's Tome Guide. I am Aegis, and today we're going to be finishing up the continent of Rohendel. Now, in this last part, we're going to be going in depth into all the cooking items that we need. Some of these have items locked behind long, drawn-out Una's daily tasks. And you're going to need to take a couple weeks of doing Unas in order to collect all the items that you're going to need for the cooking. But don't worry, we'll break it all down for you when we get into the guide. So with that being said, let's jump right into it. Okay, starting off in Rothun now, we're going to head up and into the Queen's Palace. And just inside, right behind the staircase, we find the first of 3 Mokoko Seeds hidden inside the palace. And headed up to the Queen's audience chamber now. All the way over on the left-hand side, right by this giant statue, we find Mokoko number 2. And from there, we're going to head all the way down into the basement, down by the entrance to Elzuin's Shade. And down here, we find the last Mokoko Seed. Okay, and from here, triport back to the Empyrean Plaza. And from here, we're going to head south and around this way. Vista number 1, the final vista, is just up ahead. And 2 more Mokoko Seeds to grab now. The first one is just over here. And 1 more a little further to the north, up and over this sky bridge here. And there it is right there. And we're actually going to head down and around and into this building right here. And at this spot right here, if you have 250 wisdom or higher, you can step right through the portal. And it takes us to another secret location with a Mokoko Seed. All right, now that we have that, we can triport back to the center and mount it up. A couple more things to take a look at here. First off, right here is where you're going to get another story number 1. Now, this is a multi-part chain quest. We're going to cover it in detail in a separate episode covering just the Another stories. Both of them in this zone are pretty long and kind of difficult without a guide. There's some hidden objectives and things like that. But in any case, if you do have the quest giver available right here, go on and take that quest and finish up the quest chain up until the point where it disappears. And from there, we can head on south and grab 1 final Mokoko Seed and then start cooking. And there it is right there. All right, we are finally ready to begin cooking, so let's head over to the chef and buy 2 more ingredients first, real quick. First up is the cooking ingredient merchant Elza right here. Okay, and at the merchant here, this is going to be quite expensive. First of all, we have to craft a rare honey butter beer, the sweet honey butter beer. And in order to do that, we have to purchase multiples of each of these ingredients. So we're going to go ahead and get 10 of each and hopefully get lucky. And then we also have to purchase the Azure Concentrate. Now, I'll talk about that one in a little bit, but that one is actually time-gated behind a daily Una's task. So if you don't have the task completed, you don't have to get it just this moment. And now that you've purchased everything, head on over to the cook and we can begin crafting. All right, now you can see the honey butter beer. That took about 3 tries to actually get the rare that we need. So we can just save the other ones. We don't actually need to craft them. We may be able to sell the items back to the vendor. We'll have to wait and see. The jelly chew, we can go on ahead and craft. The Tooki soup, I'm going to talk about in just a moment. We're going to hold off on crafting that. And same with the sparkling elemental food. And whatever you do, make sure that you do not craft the magic albino snail with 100 magic snails if you already have one. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to craft the snail roll cake because you accidentally crafted 1 additional magic albino snail and used up your 100 magic snails. Do not do this. You're going to have to farm everything all over again. And I think I want to cry right now. Don't make the same mistake I did. In any case, that leaves 3 cooking items that we have not talked about yet. The ether essence, the sparkling elemental food, and the Tooki soup. So let's talk about those right now. All right, so first is the sparkling elemental food. That requires 4 ingredients: the purified lotus flower water, the first contaminated elemental food, the second contaminated elemental food, and the third contaminated elemental food. Now, the third food We passed by its location briefly. It is right down here in the Zanila ruins. You need to kill the Procyon's Compass field boss, Magamadon. So that does spawn in the Procyon's Compass. You can look up field bosses, and any day which it is due to spawn, you can set the timer for it. Item level 540, and you're virtually guaranteed to get it to drop every single time. You're also going to get a melted fragment of Magamadon, which starts a hidden quest. This is not one of the hidden stories listed here. This is an actual hidden quest in the game that gives you additional virtue points for doing. So it's definitely worth it to kill Magamadon at least as many times as you need to get the 3rd contaminated elemental food, and you'll have the quest chain done at the same time. The remaining ingredient, the 2nd contaminated elemental food, you can get that from any of the earth monsters in Elzuin's Shade. So you kill any of the elementals around here, any of the earth elementals, and you will have a chance to drop that 2nd contaminated food. And then the 1st contaminated elemental food, that is also in the Zanila ruins. We touched on that briefly, but once again, you're going to triport up to the contaminated village and circle around the village. It's got a random spawn point anywhere around the perimeter of this section up here, and just kind of press up against all the edges until you find it. Then you can pick it up. And the purified lotus flower water, once again, just to recap, spawns in the glass lotus lake right here, right here, right here, and right up here. It's going to be in one of those 4 spawn points every time, so you can just do a loop and check each one and pick it up as many times as you need to. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and craft the sparkling elemental food. Every time you use it, there is a small chance that you will get ruined elemental food and a fairly high chance of getting the legendary item that we want, the Zechbas. So, hopefully RNG is on our side. We'll try using it with just one. And there we go. We got the Zechbas. We can use that immediately and unlock that portion of the Adventurer's Tome. And finally, the Tooki soup, which requires the captured Tooki tears, which we already covered in the guide, as well as the mana-infused soup. Now, the mana-infused soup is actually a time-gated item, and you can search for it under Reputation Status Item if you type in mana-infused soup, and that will show up right here. That is part of this entire quest chain, the Repairing the Seal. And if you search for it, it is, it is a Reputation 3 level reward. So in order to do it, you need to complete a total of 7 dailies in order to unlock the mana-infused soup. That means that it is time-gated behind at least a week of doing dailies. Not too bad, considering how complicated some of the other items get. And with that done, the only item which we have not crafted yet is the Ether Essence. Now, the Ether Essence requires not only the purchasable Azure Energy Concentrate, which we can purchase for 205,000 silver, but also the Magical Fermentation Boost. Now, the Magical Fermentation Boost is a reward for maxing out and completing the Una's task, Mischievous Fairy. You can find that here, and from there you can actually accept the basic daily. You're going to need to complete the first 2 levels of it in order to unlock the reward. The first level is 7 days, the next level is 8 days. So that's a total of 15 days of doing dailies of Mischievous Fairy in order to get the Fermentation Boost. Once you've got that, you can go on ahead and craft up the item. And more importantly, having the Ether Essence will also give us a refillable bottle, which we can use to give ourselves a buff and access some hidden Mokoko Seeds on this continent. But with that out of the way, we are effectively done with this continent for now, as the remaining content is time-gated. We will be revisiting it in the next week or so once we've maxed out the Una's tasks and are able to get all the Mokoko Seeds at once. And that concludes this portion of the Adventurer's Tome Guide. Thank you all so much for watching. If you liked this content, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss my regular guides and updates. And don't forget to leave a comment down below to let me know what you would like me to create a guide for next. And until tomorrow, may you all enjoy your adventures in Arkesia.